A pressure washing company quoted me $300 to clean my driveway, and the guy said the magic was all in the machine, 4,000 psi, industrial grade, nothing a homeowner could match. He was selling me the horsepower. What he wasn't telling me is that the horsepower was never the part that mattered, and a handful of powders from the grocery store would do the job better than his truck ever could. That's the piece these companies quietly depend on you never figuring out. Here's what the whole pitch hides. The reason your driveway looks dirty almost never has anything to do with how much water pressure you can throw at it. Concrete looks like solid stone, but structurally it's far closer to a hard sponge, threaded with microscopic pores running down into the material. Every oil trace, every bit of pollen, every spore of mildew and algae, every speck of airborne dust doesn't sit politely on top where a jet of water can blast it away. Over the years, it soaks down into those pores and settles deep below the surface. So by the time a driveway looks old and gray, the real problem is buried 1/8 of an inch into the concrete, somewhere a pressure washer physically cannot reach, no matter how many thousands of psi it puts out. And that's the quiet flaw in the entire pressure washing model. A pressure washer fires a forceful sheet of water across the surface, and it's genuinely good at clearing whatever sits loose on top, but it has no mechanism to reach into the pores and pull out grime that has soaked deep into the material. It cleans the lid of the jar while the mess sits inside. That's exactly why a freshly pressure-washed driveway can look spectacular while it's wet and then dry right back to nearly the same tired gray a couple of days later. The water evaporates, and the buried staining is still buried. You paid $300 to move the dirt around, not to remove it. Now, before we continue, if you're tired of wasting money on driveway cleaners that don't work, I wrote a 44-page guide called The Concrete Rescue Playbook. It covers stain removal, concrete restoration, and simple ways to clean old driveways without causing damage, and it's discounted by 80% this month, so you can get it for just $17.99 through the link below. All right, let's keep going. So the real question was never how much pressure. It was what could actually get down into those pores and pull the grime back out. And the answer is chemistry, not force, sitting in cheap boxes on ordinary store shelves. The heavy lifter is sodium percarbonate, which you already know as oxygen bleach, the powdered laundry booster people toss in with their whites. When it dissolves in warm water, it breaks into washing soda and hydrogen peroxide, and that peroxide releases active oxygen, a rush of oxygen molecules that don't just sit on the surface, but penetrate down into the porous structure, following the very paths the grime took to get in there. Once they reach the embedded staining, they break apart the bonds holding the dirt together and anchoring it to the concrete. Pressure washing is mechanical and stuck at the surface. Active oxygen is chemical, dissolving the invisible glue holding the stain deep inside the material, and once that glue breaks, the discoloration floats up and out of the pores. It isn't pushing the dirt around, it's pulling it back out of the sponge. And this exact powder gets sold as premium oxygenated concrete cleaner for $25, while the identical compound sits in the laundry aisle for a couple of bucks. The second cheap product worth knowing is plain baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. Where oxygen bleach oxidizes organic staining, baking soda is a mild alkaline abrasive and a gentle degreaser. It's soft enough that it won't etch or damage the surface, but its fine crystalline grit works loose surface grime, while its alkalinity breaks down light grease films, settling into the top layer. For a walkway, a patio, or everyday dinginess, it often handles the whole job for pennies, and it's the reassuring choice for anyone nervous about stronger chemistry. The third is washing soda, sodium carbonate, baking soda's stronger, more alkaline cousin, and it's the one that matters when grease is the real enemy. The dark shadow under a parked car, the built-up film in a garage, the greasy patch by a grill. Those are jobs where washing soda's higher pH cuts through oil far more aggressively. It's also, interestingly, part of what oxygen bleach breaks down into, which is why the two share so much of the same chemistry. And there's a fourth trick pressure washing crews would rather stay quiet about. For the black spots and green film that plague shaded, damp sections of concrete, that discoloration usually isn't dirt at all, but living algae, mildew, and lichen. A blast of water knocks the visible layer off and it grows right back within weeks, which conveniently generates repeat business. The cheap answer is a bit of oxygen bleach, whose active oxygen actually oxidizes and kills the organism at the root rather than just scattering it, so it doesn't come marching back the way it does after a wash. Here's the thread tying all of these together, and the reason the industry stays quiet about them. These aren't knockoffs or hacks. They are the actual active ingredients inside the expensive products. Turn a $25 bottle of concrete cleaner around and read the fine print, and you'll find sodium percarbonate, sodium carbonate, or sodium bicarbonate staring back, the very same compound sitting a few aisles over for $1. The concrete cannot read a label. It only responds to the chemistry, and the chemistry is identical whether it arrives in a fancy bottle or a plain box. But knowing the products only tells half the story, because plenty of people have tried these on concrete, come away unimpressed, and decided they don't work. The reason almost always traces to a couple of quirks in how the chemistry behaves. Oxygen bleach in particular is strikingly sensitive to warmth. In cold water, the reaction is sluggish, and most of the active oxygen stays locked inside the granules, dormant, never releasing, which is why so many people watch nothing happen and assume the powder is weak. It isn't weak, it's asleep. Warmth is what wakes it, and the faint cloudiness that appears as it dissolves is the reaction coming to life. There's also the matter of time, and this is where the chemistry defies expectations. Active oxygen works through a window of roughly 20 minutes, migrating into the pores, reaching the trapped grime, and severing the bonds anchoring it, all of it happening invisibly beneath a surface that appears to be doing nothing. That silent stretch is the single biggest reason people give up, walking away convinced it failed at the exact moment it's doing its most important work. The one thing that genuinely shuts it down is the solution drying out, because dry powder stops reacting. And when it runs its course, the payoff is dramatic. The loosened grime floats up and the runoff runs brown and gray, thick with years of embedded filth streaming out of the concrete. That murky water is the buried dirt finally leaving the material, and the slab left behind is often several shades lighter, the true original color emerging from beneath all that darkness. It's also why brute force is the wrong finish. Once the powders have floated the grime loose, an ordinary garden hose carries it away with ease, while high-pressure machines etch and scar the surface and open even more pores for future grime to settle into, which is a big part of why aggressively pressure-washed driveways seem to get dirty faster each passing year. The chemistry restores the surface. The pressure slowly wears it down, and that faster resoiling is exactly what keeps the crews coming back. Let me be fair, because pressure washing companies aren't a scam. They offer real convenience, and for people who don't want to learn any of this, that convenience carries genuine value. The point is only that the cleaning power itself isn't special or expensive. It's $1 or $2 of powder running the exact same chemistry as the $25 bottle and the $300 service call. That service runs a few $100s, and these powders reach the same staining it leaves buried for pocket change and about 20 minutes of mostly waiting. Your driveway doesn't care what you spent. It only cares about the chemistry doing the work. If this opened your eyes to what's really inside those overpriced bottles, subscribe for more and check out my ebook on this QR code or press the link in my bio.